massive Zelda 40th anniversary hardware plans seem to be underway, with Nintendo being tight-lipped about everything right now. We just got the huge launch of Splatoon Raiders. Guys, this game is incredible. I've been playing it, and I will have a video for you guys talking about the game, probably in addition to a full review of the game as well. But we have to talk about what's happening when it comes to what we could get with The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time or The Legend of Zelda 40th Anniversary, because some new leaks have been revealed, and we're going to talk about that, plus some more when it comes to what Mr. Miyamoto has to say and why Nintendo's been having the crazy success that they've had for the last almost decade now with the Nintendo Switch brand, and a bit more when it comes to what's happening with another Switch game. But before we continue, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 at 140,000 subscribers, or on September 1st, whichever comes first. Subscribe, like, comment. The winner will be chosen at random, and it's a worldwide giveaway. Thanks, peeps. Okay, starting out here, over on Twitter, Mike Odyssey said a Zelda Ocarina of Time Pro controller might be coming instead of a themed Nintendo Switch 2. Bookmark this tweet. Mr. Necro Felipe seems to have some answers here from University Nintendo, one of the biggest sites in Latin America, and he said this. He's right, and I've already seen the design. This is a teaser for Nintendo deals. So from that tweet, there was another tweet that he quote tweeted from him, Necro Felipe, his own tweet, and said, correction, Nintendo Switch 2 Pro Controller, The Legend of Zelda 40th Anniversary Edition. It is not a themed controller tied to Ocarina of Time. And then, that was already kind of huge. Okay, we're getting a Legend of Zelda themed Pro Controller, which seems very likely if you know Nintendo's history when it comes to the Legend of Zelda and launching hardware related or special editions related to the Legend of Zelda. They do this quite frequently. But then Special Nick comes through and says, yeah, both the controller and console are Zelda themed, not necessarily Ocarina. And then Necro Felipe responds with, forgot this detail, haha. And somebody else asked Special Nick, okay, so you think this console is still coming? And then he said, yep, it's coming. Special Nick has gotten some inside information and things correct, and even before Nate the Hate, I think he was talking about some of the DMs that he leaked from his own Discord, where he talked about how he knew that The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time was getting a remake. He knew that for a while, and he's gotten some other things correct. So has Necro Felipe. They have not been 100% on everything, but they've gotten a few different things correct. So this needs to be broken down on different levels here, and I'll add in what I think what else is going to happen. So a Legend of Zelda themed Pro Controller and a themed console seem incredibly likely, because if you look at Nintendo's history, they've done this quite a bit. If you look at the 3DS, if you look at even like the DS or the Game Boy Advance, or even going back a while ago, Nintendo has always had themed consoles. Even if you go back to the last time that they did, like, let's just say from that N64 era with a Zelda game, and the new Nintendo 3DS, there was a Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask special Nintendo new 3DS, more like it. So I do think that a Zelda themed console and a Zelda themed Pro Controller are happening, and it just seems likely that Nintendo would continue doing this because it always does well for them. It's the Legend of Zelda, it's the 40th anniversary. Now, I still think, if you haven't seen my other videos on this, that Nintendo will be doing Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD, and having some type of double pack with these two games. There's been some rumors coming out before that Twilight Princess is going to get a nice remaster treatment, and maybe there's nothing yet for Wind Waker, but I think that there's going to be a double pack for Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, and I think it can come out this year. But I still feel that's a possibility because they did that with the Mario 40th anniversary, where we got Super Mario Galaxy 1 and Super Mario Galaxy 2 bundled together on the Nintendo Switch 1 with the Nintendo Switch 2 like 4K update. So they can do the same thing here with Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD, where they put them both on one package, $70, or they might just have Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD and remaster that one, since the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker is already on the NSO service. But the Wind Waker HD, that's a much better version of the Wind Waker that tweaks and adjusts things. I think people would really like to be able to have Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD in physical formats on a current Nintendo platform. Those are still stuck on the Wii U. So it'd be nice to bring those forward, and I think that they will bring those forward. The announcement will happen sometime. Now, when will the announcement happen, and when are we going to get the first gameplay footage and what's going on with The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time? Well, I think that Splatoon Raiders just dropped. Great game, selling well. I think it's going to be a big launch for them, especially in Japan. Now, in August, it's a bit quiet. There's not really any big first-party titles in August, but that's for a reason. They packed 3 separate first-party titles in July, with Rhythm Heaven Groove, Splatoon Raiders, and then we also have Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Nintendo Switch 2 Edition on July 30th. And then in August, there's a bunch of third-party games from Lies of P, Final Fantasy XIV, Elden Ring. There's just like a lot of stuff coming out in August, third-party wise, major games. And that's in addition to the Dusk Bloods network test. So I do think that August could be a time period where Nintendo does announce something when it comes to The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, but we still have Fire Emblem dropping in September, and September is packed with more games than I can even think. Just off the top of my head, there's going to be Onimusha, there's going to be Orbitals, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, in addition to Trails in the Sky second chapter, and there's a lot more games coming out in September. So maybe they do something sometime in September when it comes to a Legend of Zelda 40th Anniversary Direct by itself, or a big Nintendo Direct, and the Legend of Zelda 40th Anniversary is kind of jammed inside of that, like they did with the Mario 40th Anniversary last year in 2025, and then they had like a whole Mario block within the Nintendo Direct itself. So I'm very excited to see what happens here, but I do believe Necro Felipe and Special Nick that there's going to be a pro controller and themed Zelda console. I think that that is just free money when it comes to things like that. And Ocarina of Time is just too legendary of a game. In addition to the 40th anniversary happening, there's going to be something here. They always do it. I think it's going to happen again. But speaking of what Nintendo does, Mr. Miyamoto has talked about what he believes gamers are looking for when it comes to a console. And he thinks that specs are not at the heart of it. And Nintendo has been at the heart of not offering the best specs for like 20 plus years now, since the Wii came out back in 2006. So it's been a while since they've actually really focused on specs, but with the Nintendo Switch 2, they focused on specs a bit more than they ever have, at least in the last 20 years. But here's what Mr. Shigeru Miyamoto had to say in an extensive interview with Famitsu, talking about what gamers are looking for and how he believes that it's not just specs anymore, and that's because of the success that they've had with the Nintendo Switch 1 and of course the start of the Nintendo Switch 2 here. Quote, "First of all, I was happy that the Switch lasted for 8 to 9 years. I think that customers are no longer just looking for specs. I think the idea is that if you buy the software, you can play it on the device you have at home. Smartphones are everywhere, aren't they? I think that's one idea. But Nintendo has always been providing gameplay that only we can create, including the interface. And compared to smartphone, it has the advantage of being able to respond quickly and having a high degree of freedom because it only requires one architecture and support for one piece of hardware. If you use a general purpose device, you have to support all versions, so the amount of work increases. We still want to make a living with minimal effort to live without working. That's half a joke, of course." They started laughing there. "But we believe that reducing the amount of work as much as possible is important for making development more efficient. So considering that, I think we've created a pretty good environment." So this is kind of twofold. He talks about what people believe that they want when it comes to console specs, but he also discusses why Nintendo makes exclusives and why they make a dedicated device that's a closed ecosystem for their games. Because if you're doing, let's just say PC, or if you're doing smartphone or whatever, you have to sit there and optimize and look at, okay, there's this broad range of specs. People are going to have a Google Pixel. People are going to have a OnePlus. People are going to have an iPhone. People are going to have all different types of phones with different types of specs. So you have to kind of hit like a median of what you're looking for and then push that game out, and hopefully it works across the broad range of devices. And of course, Nintendo has a lot of experience developing mobile games, so they know that experience, they know that type of thing. But with the Nintendo Switch 1, Nintendo Switch 2, and obviously Nintendo systems in the past, all you have to do is make for that one spec device. So developers can hone in and optimize and truly make a special piece of content for that one target range. And yeah, it does make development easier, and development is already hard enough as it is. It's already very difficult to make a game, and you want to make things easier considering how many hours you have to work just to make a game operate and play the way that it does. So I think that Nintendo's approach to it works really well, but they also have a very unique touch that nobody else has. It's just something that Nintendo has compared to other publishers and developers. That's their unique thing. Now, Nintendo can't make every type of game. Sometimes they have to go outside of their wheelhouse, like with Platinum Games and Bayonetta, and them getting something like that, or even like Astral Chain. So it's one of those things to where it's a balance. It's a balance, but I do think that Nintendo does create a system like the Switch 1 and now the Switch 2 that a lot of people truly feel, because you have the anywhere that you can play it aspect of it, that it becomes their type of system. And they're just worried about how well the games are. They're just worried about what the game does. They're just worried about that. They're not worried about the specs as much. As we've seen, the Switch 1 outsold the PS4, outsold the PS5, outsold the Xbox One, Xbox One X, Xbox Series, outsold all these systems. So I think that there's definitely truth in what he's saying here, and people will continue to buy Nintendo hardware as long as they make exclusive software to play on that hardware. So Mr. Miyamoto is right, absolutely, with that. Now, what's not right is Konami and their Switch 1 port of Castlevania's Belmont's Curse, because it's only running at 30 FPS from what we know here, and fans are not happy with that, because where is the Nintendo Switch 2 version? Well, I think there's going to be a Nintendo Switch 2 version of Castlevania Belmont's Curse, but what we need to know is that 30 FPS version on the Switch 1, is that running in an uncapped frame rate? Because if it's running in an uncapped frame rate, we can take that, play it backwards compatible on the Nintendo Switch 2, and we'll get that 60 FPS. Now, when it comes to Castlevania games, Belmont's Curse looks awesome. It's been a long time since we've gotten a brand new Castlevania 2D game. So this is highly anticipated, but people love playing Castlevania portable. Castlevania and portable have a long storied history. So when people saw that it's 30 FPS, there was instant, what is going on here? Now, once again, the hope is that Belmont's Curse is going to run uncapped on the Nintendo Switch 1, or there's going to be an option for that, because then you can play it on the Nintendo Switch 2 via backwards compatibility, even run like the boost mode, and you're going to be able to get that 60 FPS if it's uncapped. So hopefully Konami and the developers behind it here, they are intuitive enough to know that that's what people want to do. Because, yeah, sure, Belmont's Curse on PS5 and Xbox Series or PC, you can play it on there. But once again, people love Castlevania on Nintendo platforms. The Castlevania retro collections do really well on the Nintendo Switch 1, and Castlevania just in general has a long history on Nintendo platforms. So I'm hoping that they get that situated when it comes down to it. Now, there is a standard edition and a midnight edition and some pre-order bonuses that get you like an Alucard costume, which I didn't know about that, but now I know looking at this website for them. But they go over the standard edition when it comes to the size of it, and that's where we found out that it's going to be a 30 FPS experience when it comes to Castlevania Belmont's Curse. It's still coming out, the Switch 1 version, on October 15th, 2026. So it is day and date, which we didn't know for a while. But now that we know, it's like cool that it's coming out day and date. But yeah, it needs to be uncapped, because I would love to be able to play this handheld portable in October. You got the NFL going on right there. It's going to be really nice to be able to play this type of game handheld with the Nintendo Switch 2. But man, if they mess this one up here, we're going to have to wait maybe for that Switch 2 version of the game. Maybe we pick up the PS5 version of the game. But yeah, I always like to play Castlevania portable. I think Castlevania, especially 2D old school Castlevania style games, portable is the way to go for me, at least. So I'm hoping that this is an uncapped frame right here. But what do you think when it comes to everything we talked about here? A lot of stuff. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, peeps, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.